But, that's an important part, is having someone in a leadership position at the table. And, Nevada has been shortchanged. For every dollar we send to DC, we get 66 cents back in investment. So it's making sure we have leaders in those positions. And I know Dina will advocate for it. She's a great representative of Congressional District 1. And so I think we have a good fighter in her on that issue.
She is a good fighter, that's for sure. Alex is asking, why is the Equality Act so important, and how will it protect our gender diverse LGBTQ citizens?
I think the Equality Act is important, and we just introduced it on Wednesday. 1964, we had the Civil Rights Act. We need to protect people based on their gender identity, who they choose to love. And they should have, it's equality, it's justice, it's basically having protections. I mean, you can get married in a state, but the next day you get thrown out of your apartment, okay? We need to have protections so that all people are treated equally in our country. It doesn't matter who you are or who you love, and we should have no discrimination. That's what the Equality Act does, and I look forward to getting it passed.
James asks, HR 8 heavily relies on a citizen's ability to self-enforce themselves. Without a gun registry, that law seems difficult to enforce. How do you plan on measuring the law's success from a policy effectiveness standpoint?
HR 8, the background check initiative. How do I plan on, I'd say it again, I'm sorry.
How do you plan on measuring the law's success from a policy effectiveness standpoint without?
Well, basically, it will monitor all gun sales, except for gun sales between relatives, etc. So I think we have a regulation of gun sales in this country and monitoring the exchange of guns. I mean, I think it's a regulatory issue, and one that, it's not a registry is every person who has a gun. It's not, we're not requiring people who already own guns to register them. It is regulating the sale of guns between two people, a background check, making sure that the person who has a gun, who is going to buy a gun, is not a dangerous person. And so I don't think, it's not a gun registry, is all I have to say.
Cyrus, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. How about Glass-Steagall prosecuting and taxing Wall Street and auditing the Federal Reserve?
How about it?
That's me. Yes. You support the big banks, the corruption, Federal Reserve. You're crashing our economy.
Okay, we got your question.
Listen, first of all, I believe that we need to look at our economy and, from a federal point of view, the incredible influence of special interests in regulation. And so I believe there's a lot to be done to rein in the monopolies we have in this country, and so that's where I am on that.
What about the Federal Reserve?
Listen, the Federal Reserve what do you want me to,
Audit said they crashed our economy. They're fraudsters. Ben Bernanke.
Why don't we just abolish the government and call it a day,
Okay, why don't we ask the next question? Okay, this is from Melvin Springer, I believe. What are the 3 main items that you are working on to improve the 3rd Congressional District, your top 3 agenda items?
So 3 main items. First of all, education. I'm focused on student debt, predatory lending, predatory loan servicers. This administration, Betsy DeVos, has sort of lifted regulations of loan servicers and making sure, so a student goes in, is in default or near default, calls up a loan servicer, says, hey, I need help, and can I go to an income-based model where I pay back based on my income, or should I defer? Well, once you defer, it's so much worse off. Deferment is much worse than income-based. These predatory lenders are in the business of turning you around. they say go to deferment, and puts these students further and further behind where they're not paying their principal back. So there needs to be much more regulation on that. We need to make sure that our for-profit colleges, we've had many who have gone under here in Nevada. The Art Institute, right now, there's teachers who are teaching there who aren't getting paid. We have students who have gone through school, they're several credits short. Now they have their debt and no degree to show for it. So I think there needs to be much more oversight and penalties for for-profit universities. That's one, and predatory lenders. Looking at Nevada, overcrowding in our classrooms and teacher pipeline issues is important. Veterans Affairs, making sure that we're doing as much as we can for veteran workforce development, healthcare access, mental health access, suicide prevention, and then of course continuing to focus on reducing the cost of healthcare and prescription drug prices.
Public lands, I know that's sometimes an issue people get a glazed look on, but it's a huge big deal because the federal government owns so much of Nevada, and there's talk about adjusting the disposal boundaries. We don't want to get too arcane on folks, but people are interested, what can they use? How can they use public lands, and what should be protected and what should be sold out?
Yeah, so, Nevada, because we have such a large percentage of our land owned by federal government, this is an incredibly important issue. We have a Clark County lands bill, which is being negotiated right now in the county with the different stakeholders. You have, vehicle operators, overland vehicle operators, you have your conservationists, you have your developers, you have the county and Henderson and the city, so you have all these stakeholders. They have been negotiating this for months. I believe it's almost ready to be proposed. And to me, that this was something that's being negotiated at a local level. And we obviously, my biggest issue is if we have a standard that's set in place and based on scientific data in terms of disposal boundaries, et cetera, we should continue to use that and not throw that out the door. So
Prices of homes are going up because of the BLM.
So in terms of legislation right now, it's one of those things where all the jurisdictions have to get together.
well, no, they're all
Yeah,
negotiating
yeah.
right now. We will introduce it in the House, the Clark County Lands Bill, when we get it from the local authorities.
What about the Nevada delegation? Let me ask you kind of an insider question. Covering this over the years, they haven't always been singing off the same songbook page, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
What's your sense of, again, everyone kind of getting together as a unanimity, but obviously when it pertains to Nevada issues.
Right. Yeah, I mean, listen, Nevada's a small state. We only have 4 Congress people. We have to work together as a unit if we're gonna have any say. So I know personally, I have a good relationship with everyone. The day after I was elected, I called Mark Amaday. I said, you and I have never met. Love to meet you. I went to his office and met with him. And so I believe that there are issues, and I know we have worked across the aisle with Mark on various issues. Again, there will be issues where we're not aligned. And then Dina's the dean of the delegation, and she's a veteran and an incredible leader. And Stephen Horsford, I mean, he's sort of considered a freshman, but he's really a sophomore because he was there before. But he has incredible experience in our state. I mean, he has been a great leader in the state. So both he and Dina have been incredible mentors to me. And then Catherine Cortez Masto and Jackie are terrific as well. And Jackie and I have worked on legislation together. There's legislation. Jackie, there's legislation that Jackie had introduced last time that I will take up in this session. And so, I think it's a great delegation and we're working well together.
Okay, so we have time for one last question. I know this is a question that's on everyone's mind.
What legislation
Daylight
is
savings
Jackie
time.
Rose?
Daylight savings time.
Okay. Yeah, I love daylight savings time. Let's leave it. Yes, I love it.
All right, we're out of time. I want to
Thank
thank you all.
you. Thank you all.